something like 8 octillion combinations of window and door. Codes can be interpreted so many different ways. They write these codes to leave it up to interpretation.
How long does it take to pay back that extra $5,000
in energy savings? Correct.
Savings because you bought the more expensive, more efficient window. And I see this a lot in HVAC.
I had a huge crush on Pella for a long time. I used to tear apart competitor products as part of my jobs.
How did you wind up owning the premium window distribution company in the Pacific Northwest? All right, hello, welcome, we're on. Hi, I am Charlie here today with Keith Dashofy. He is the principal and co-owner of Pella Windows and Doors of Western Washington. You can find him at Pella, Pella, PNW.com. They have showroom in Bothell, near 405 and 520, just a little north of that, and one down in Tacoma. Where did you say it was?
Just south of the Tacoma Mall.
Just south of the Tacoma Mall. I am Charlie. I am with Armada Design and Build in Bellevue, Washington. And we are Let's Build with Armada. It's everything about your home and owning a home and being a homeowner in the 21st century, specifically here in the PNW, and some of the challenges that we face with weather and earthquakes and building codes and cost of building, things like that we have to deal with. So we're hoping that this is a resource of information for you and that you'll be able to find something. This is going to give us an opportunity to dive deep, more even so than some of the videos that we do, which you can see on our YouTube channel, by the way, that where you get just a lot of me in those where we're talking about this or talking about this, but this is an opportunity to bring in some experts and listen to them instead of me just prattle on and drone on, and really hear it from them about the things that they see in their world that are happening now and what's coming up, again, with regard to the home and things like that. So we're just really grateful to have the opportunity and grateful to have access to true industry professionals and leaders that really understand and are shaping where this whole thing's going. Keith's not bumping along here. He's kind of directing the river with a lot of people. So he's not in it, he's driving it. So that's great, and we have access to him. So, all right, windows and doors. That's what we're here to talk about today. Comfort, energy, and code. Windows are where comfort, energy, and style collide, and code sets the guardrails. Today, we'll translate U-factor, what is that? SHGC and materials into plain English so you pick right the first time, especially if you're building a DADU or ADU, doing something significant. This is what you want to know. Tap like and subscribe, turn on the notifications so you know when we post more things. Lots to learn. All right, Keith, the first question, I don't know where to start.
All
right, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Very excited to have you here. Windows, one of my favorite topics. And I actually, very, very early in my career, right out of college, I worked for Pella. For a couple of years.
All right.
In Michigan. For those who don't know, all right, Pella is a window and door manufacturer.
Correct.
Right? Window and door manufacturer based in Pella, Iowa.
Yep.
Right? This is something that I know. And I would say that from my perception of it, and I think the industry and people that know, right, would put Pella in the very top tier of window and door manufacturers out there. Certainly, I don't know, maybe on the planet, but certainly in the US, if you're gonna kind of rank them, I would say they are an upper tier manufacturer, right?
Absolutely.
Right, on par with Marvin and Lowen and...
I would be biased and say that we're probably a little bit better, but...
Right. If you're going to put them in groups, like those would be in the same group tier, right? I would think.
Some of our products, yes, but I think the thing, too, there can be some perceptions with that. People think top tier and then they think expensive.
Right.
And one of the things that Pella has done brilliantly, I actually spent a lot of my career in product management, so I worked with manufacturers, helping them assemble, the spectrum of products they offer. And Pella has assembled a portfolio that goes all the way from an entry-level builder-grade product to, something that goes in a $30 million home in Medina. So
Absolutely.
It's really a range, but all of that, the Pella name is really about a premium service behind each of those products, regardless of whether you're buying our entry-level vinyl product or working with our architectural services to design, your dream house.
Right. Okay. So tell me just quickly, how did you wind up owning the premium window distribution company in the Pacific Northwest? You just didn't wake up one day and go, hey, I think I want to own the best window company in town, right? Maybe you did.
I wish there was I always say, I wish my life had some sort of like sexy plan that I could go in front of a college or a high school and like inspire kids on all the great decisions I made. But I worked construction. I grew up very working class. And so I needed money, and I worked, I started installing windows about 26 years ago. Okay. So some hands-on, paid my way through school doing that and selling behind a counter at Home Depot. Okay. And then graduated from school, went into sales for another manufacturer actually up here in the Northwest. That translated into, I just kind of ended up being their head of product. Okay. One thing led to another. I accidentally became a land developer and a builder. Uh-oh. All right. Just that entrepreneurial gene. Sure. But maybe we'll have to do an episode on that. But the story of Pella. So Pella actually called me and they said, hey, we're working on a redesign for one of our products, and we'd like to talk to you based on they had seen my LinkedIn profile that I had a product development management background. Ah, okay. I had a huge crush on Pella for a long time. I used to tear apart competitor products as part of my job. So I would deconstruct Andersons and Marvins and Pellas and Milgards and all of those different windows. And I always loved the Pella package because Pella was it wasn't just the window, it was the tools to design the window. It was the tools for the architect. It was the branding for the consumer. Like they were what we always aspired to. If we were trying to develop something, we wanted to be even a sliver of the Pella package. And so I said, I'm obsessed with your products and your marketing and the brand, but there's no way on earth I'm going to go live in Pella, Iowa. And so fast forward, I get in this 3-hour conversation. I had left the window industry for about 3 years, and I was building and doing some consulting. Anyways, I'm a window nerd at heart, and I ended up on the phone with this wonderful woman for 3 hours that then turned into, hey, why don't you just stop in Iowa at a business trip to North Carolina? She says, just stop in Pella and come see us. And I met a dream team. Like I met the engineers, I met their executive team. I thought if I don't go design this window with them, I'm going to regret this the rest of my life because I'm going to have, it's like the playground for a window nerd. And 3 weeks later, I lived in Pella, Iowa. So what was the window you were designing? I worked on our Impervia fiberglass products. Okay. What part of it? So we, in my tenure back there, we did a casement awning window with our new Easy Slide operators. So we got to do some innovation work with that. And then we launched a new patio door. Again, Pella's really into innovation, which is why I geeked out. But really innovative design, lowest profile threshold on a sliding door with performance. So, got to do some cool products, but I kind of had this 2-year agreement. And then, because I was going to come back, I'm like, guys, I'm going to go back to my business. And they said, no, we don't think that's a good idea. And, kind of fast forward, they showed me how the distribution model worked. Right. And it fixed a lot of what I felt is currently very broken in the connection between a manufacturer and a homeowner with the way Pella runs the distribution. So 3-year approval process of being interviewed, of being approved by the board of directors, of passing obviously all the financial checkpoints, and took ownership a few years ago. Okay. Do you know other distributor owners? Because that's a small family, right? I mean, how many are there? There's only 60 of us. 60, okay. Nationally. So we're, we have pretty big territories. The best thing that we can do to help some people out here, right, to give you some baseline knowledge is let's start kind of at the 50,000 foot level, overviewing windows and doors, right? So you've got, to me, this is the way I think of it, and if you have a different thought, then like, great, I'm all ears, let's talk about it, is like, essentially to me, where that conversation starts is what is the window made of, or, like you've got vinyl windows, you've got aluminum windows, you've got fiberglass, wood, different varieties of wood, right? You've got, well, the way we think of it, or I think of it, is what I would call a wood, meaning it's a wood interior and a wood exterior. Not much of that going on in the world anymore, but I guess it exists still. And then you've got wood clad, where you've got some kind of cladding on an overall wood unit,
right? A metal cladding, like Pella would be a metal clad, or their main, like, I mean, they've got ranges, right? But the wood metal clad window is kind of Pella's, right? That would be their sort of main front and center offering. And then this impervia, I want you to talk about that in a minute, but that's some kind of composite-y thing, right? So you've got, fiberglass, aluminum, right? Let's talk about it. What else? We got wood of some variety. We got vinyl, right? All vinyl. What else? What am I missing?
Wait, sorry. I have to go through the list in my
do
head.
it in your head. Like,
Vinyl, fiberglass, wood clad,
right?
thermally broken aluminum.
Okay.
There are, there's a manufacturer that does, it's called a wood flour composite. They actually, they give you tricky names to try to make it sound like it's fiberglass, but it's not.
Right.
That's the one material we've avoided. It doesn't have the durability that we're going to put our name on. So, but yeah, you'll
fiberglass?
see that. No, it's called, it's a proprietary name. I don't want to call them out.
Yeah, all right.
But they call it something that sounds like fiberglass, and it's absolutely not fiberglass.
Okay. All right, so and then to me, there is a distinction in here, and this is where my lack of knowledge comes in. Because a lot of my information about windows is pretty old, but like in Pella, I still remember designer series and architectural series, all those. I don't even think those exist anymore, the way they've reshuffled the deck. But is sort of this composite, like this gray, fuzzy, vinyl, fiberglass, and now you're starting to see, or at least from some manufacturers, kind of this fiberglass vinyl composite sort of amalgam, right? Is that, would you?
No, that's what they're making it sound like to consumers. It's actually, it's sawdust and glue.
Okay.
It's very, very brittle. It's actually, Pella asked me to review that material when we were looking at, product design. And yeah, there is an ability for wood window companies, a very big wood window company found this, they created this composite that's, it's wood chips and glue.
Would they be based in Minnesota?
They would be.
Okay. All right. I got you.
So that's a material that's out there, and it's not vinyl and fiberglass. It's sawdust and glue basically put together. You can tap it with a hammer when it's cold out, and it just kind of fractures.
Right.
So you have to fix it with like Bondo. So
that doesn't sound like a great choice in a wet climate. So all right.
Yeah.
So it's vinyl, fiberglass, wood, with a couple tweaks on that, and then a metal, thermally broken aluminum kind of thing. So that's generally your options.
That's your core. Those are your core designs.
And then vinyl being typically the least expensive.
Yes.
Right. Then fiberglass.
Actually, fiberglass and wood kind of start to fall into the same category.
Like kind of some. Yeah. Like I do this a lot when people ask me how does say hardwood compare to LVP flooring. I say, well, hardwood has a range of price from the lowest to the highest, and LVP flooring has a range from lowest to highest, and they might sit like this. Yeah. Right? That there is a scenario that you could potentially pick the most expensive LVP that would be more than the least expensive hardwood. Yeah. But generally those kind of would match up like that.
Kind of. I mean, I think with I always tell a customer, if we're deciding between a fiberglass and a wood product, we're not deciding on price, we're deciding on design, and we're deciding on possibly engineering, because there's things that each can do that might differ a little bit. But once you get out of the price point category, which is really going to be your vinyl products, it's really then just getting down to design and engineering.
Okay, warranty, some of that we can get into that. Like, do they vary a little bit? And
not well. I mean, across most 90% of Pella products, you're going to have a lifetime limited warranty. Right. So,
and I know a lot of other competitors. At least you can get a really long warranty on glass and some of that from some of the other window manufacturers out there. So so we'll come. All right, so that's kind of the materials from which windows are made. Now, doors, would they also fall into that same category? Nothing really different or special about that. All right, so now when we talk about doors, right, this is where this gets a little tricky, is that like your front door or your entry door or the door to your garage from the house out of the mudroom or something, that typically would be kind of what we would refer to as an entry door. But when we're talking about doors and windows, like a Pella door and window manufacturing company or others that are out there, is that the window companies will make like the patio doors and sliding doors and French doors, right? That they are more cohesive with the window package itself.
Yeah, I mean, the entry door is broken out. We do have an entry door line as
No,
well.
I know Pella used to, and it probably still does. But generally speaking, we think of that as separate in our mind, where we're thinking like you're in. It can still come from Pella, but we think of the entry door as one thing, and then we think of all the door and window package and sliding glass doors and all of that as another, but yet same package, but it's all coming from the same place.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. So then really quickly, I just want to touch on, again, some big picture stuff is the operational components of windows, right? You have a casement window, which is the crank kind, right? And then up and down.
Hung windows.
Windows, right? Double hung, single hung. You hear that thrown around. Those are the two that go up and down, slide by. And then you've got that essentially turned on its side, which is a horizontal slider guy, right? Awning window that cranks out and hinges at the top.
Like a garage door opening or,
Right, like a casement window sitting on its side. You've got fixed windows, specialty shaped windows, right? And then French doors, sliding doors, bifolding panel doors,
pocketing doors.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean the range of windows we've got. We've got these new products that the trends right now. Obviously, big doors are very popular.
Right.
I mean, every home being built is going to have some form of that, which is going to be bifold or we'll call it stacking. Right. Pockets into the wall, and then also now the other big trend is going from the kitchen as a pass through. We do it's called a piston awning, and it opens like an old school garage door where it kind of hinges out, but allows for a big giant opening and pass through for kind of a bar service type scenario from your kitchen to your deck.
We've done that for sure. We do that. I've done that a number of times with like a short folding door right on the countertop.
Yep. Now, we can also do those with the bifolds, or we can do the garage door style.
Right. And how's that bottom of that? Is that a zero threshold thing?
We can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the way we've done it with the folding door. So that's cool. I didn't know that was an option.
Yep.
We'll have to talk about that. Okay. Operating types. Okay. So here's another one that I want to talk about is U factor, right? And this is important because Windows are one of the only products, right, in the building envelope that is asked to do what a Windows has. It's 0 degrees on the outside. It's 70 degrees on the inside. Don't leak, don't have water, don't have air infiltration, look good, operate, right? I mean, that's a pretty extreme ask of something that people make of dissimilar materials, right? That's a big thing. And one of the ways that windows are measured is U factor, which is the reciprocal of R factor, right? And my opinion of the reason, and this would be interesting to hear your thought about it, is so R factor, like you've heard something say, that's a R, 50 insulation on my roof or attic or something like that. And so that's what that number comes from. And a perfect R value would be 100, would be perfectly insulated. So the higher the R value, the better insulated something is, right? And then windows and doors, from my years at Pella when I started way back in college, was understanding the U value and that it was the reciprocal, but the R value was so low that it was kind of embarrassing that it was a 2 or something like that. So I feel to me like the window industry invented the U value to sort of hide the fact that their R value is so low that they just went to a different measuring system. Does that? Why would they do that? Why not just use R?
I've honestly never thought about it in 26 years.
Right.
I would guess that you can measure more nuance because you can have a 3.0, a 2.8, 2.9, 2.8, 2.7.
Well, you can have an R 12.6 too. I mean, you can put a decimal on it.
Yeah.
But it's so I think this is my thing is that the R values were in the 2s.
Yeah.
Right. And then maybe the 3 or something like that. And depending on where you measure, middle of the window, the unit, right? They measure R value in all different places. But they were just so embarrassing low that they didn't want to publish it. So they came up let's just make a U value, which is the reciprocal of the R. And so a perfect U value would be 0, whereas the perfect R value is 100. So you're trying to drive that U to 0. So a 0.22 or 0.24, right? 0.28 is kind of where we are on the, what was the inverse of that? What would the R value?
Like an R3.
R3, okay.
Ish.
All right, so this U value is the insulation value, the way they measure how efficient a window is, or inefficient in terms of really its inefficiency is what you want. You want it to not efficiently transmit heat through itself. You want it to be inefficient, technically. So that's how we measure it in the building code, and this is a big thing that we have to comply. So talk about that. You mentioned triple glazing. Why is that so crazy in Washington State?
There's so many different opinions on that. Again, I've got about 25, 26 years of being in the industry, and
right.
Technologies improve, and we've made houses more efficient. And there's two things. I think there's my job if I'm building a home is to create an environment of comfort and something that again is efficient. I think we've moved from talking about green more to understanding the impact of climate and climate change and what's
right.
going on. And so it is important that we manage our energy as a planet carefully. When it comes down to the forces on the industry that drive that and building envelopes, I start to deviate in maybe some of my opinions, but really it's honestly government enforcement, right? So the manufacturer is designed to obviously Energy Star, right? So Energy Star is a government organization that is out there trying to give consumers a way to identify that they're buying products that are fulfilling that responsibility, mm-hmm. right? We've watched everything ratchet down over the years, right. And I say ratchet down, the lower E-value gets, the more efficient a window is. Even you talk about the envelope of the home, you talk about the systems that run our homes, the HVAC and all of that. They're driving more and more and more efficiency. And for a long time, there was a really good balance of you saw that sticker, and there was a really good return to the homeowner as well, because they were gonna for the little more they spent to have an Energy Star product, right. That then has a return on my energy bills go down, right. And therefore I'm going to save more money. I think one of the trends we're seeing today, in my very personal opinion, is that to drive the product performance any higher, the materials to do so drive the cost up so much that the payback goes out 1,000 years. And
right,
so
that's my point, right? That's the thing that bugs me that I talk to clients about is that, I'm with you on responsible stewardship of the planet, 100%. Right? And being a good planet citizen and not using all of the energy and creating all of the pollution, and I think we do a pretty good job with that, in the U.S. in terms of how we are responsible and that we're mindful of that kind of thing. But where I sort of find myself in this weird spot where I feel a little bit bad and that mandate overreach, mm-hmm. is that required to spend money on, say, a window that's a high performing window, yep. right? To go from, and I'm going to make this up, but to go from a 0.28 U-value window to a 0.22, mm-hmm. right? That is literally a decimal increase, mm-hmm. in efficiency. And then the question would be, how much would the same window package for the typical house be at 0.28 yep. versus 0.22? And it's, again, making it up. It's at least $5,000 more for a typical home, maybe 10 or 20. Right?
It really varies,
right.
But there is going to be a difference.
Right. So you're paying more for that more efficient thing. But my question then is, but how long does it take to pay back that extra $5,000
in energy savings?
Correct. Savings because you bought the more expensive, more efficient window. And I see this a lot in HVAC, mm-hmm. is that where they're driving us to have homeowners require these super high efficiency units. And the thing that bugs me is that the payback period is longer than the life of the furnace.
Longer than the life of the person.
Right. Oh, well, certainly that. Yeah. I mean, particularly if you're, in my age, definitely. But even the furnace itself doesn't matter who buys it. That the furnace will need to be replaced before you've gotten a payback on the thing. So like that's the part that me is like that feels like a little overreach, mm-hmm. right? Am I wrong in that?
We want to give homeowners a comfortable home. Again, yes, that is. It's the biggest expense you have in your life. And it should deliver value. And that value comes in not just the value of the comfort and the space and somewhere to raise your family and your neighborhood, but then also, what goes in the pocketbook and what you're paying and what the return is on the cost to run that house, right? And so it's balancing all of it. There are people that absolutely, they want to chase a net zero home. It's something that is very important to them. They're not concerned about what the cost of, the payback on that energy is.
Yeah.
That's what they desire to build.
Absolutely, and if that's their number one priority, we want to help them do that. But a lot of our clients, they say, "Oh, we want to do this, we want to do that," and then we're like, "Okay, this is what that cost."
Yep.
And then we find that they back off of that a little bit. That they're like, "Oh, that's too far. That's too much."
Yep.
Then where can we modulate that and come back a little? I don't want to, go back to just slash and burn and but something kind of try to find that balance.
Yep.
So it's that mandated expense that doesn't really, at the end of the day, in my opinion, there's no real technical reason, that starts to feel like, oh, now that gets into the overreach world. But that's just my feeling about it. But let's
But what you're
be
seeing too,
responsible.
and this is where, and I'm not going to call anyone out, but up in Canada right now with some of what they're doing with these codes, there's manufacturers that are, so all of our products are certified by a third party.
Okay.
So everything that is printed on a Pella window is certified by a third party that then, goes up for, is logged and approved and, acknowledged by the government.
Mm-hmm.
There are small manufacturers, specifically a lot in the vinyl categories, and they're literally up in Canada printing labels in their garages, we say, because there's no way, I know that there's no way the product is hitting that number, but they've ratcheted the code down so much that there's, you have to bring products over from, other countries, again, that don't have the same regulations with how they're rating that. And it's getting a little sketchy.
So you're putting a sticker on it that says 0.24 and there's no chance.
Or 2.0 or 1.8.
Yeah.
And it just, to me, I when I'm seeing that behavior, I'm hearing those stories, and I've seen some of it with my own eyes, and I just go, then now it's misleading.
Right. Right. So let's real quickly here. So if you're doing a significant renovation, remodel, addition, certainly here in the greater Seattle area, the state of Washington, is we have a pretty rigorous energy code compliance thing that you have to meet here. And windows are one of the things on that. It's like what type of heating and cooling system you're doing, what type of insulation you're putting in, what type of water heater, and then really windows. Those are kind of, and then how you're building too. Like, you're keeping it clean, that type of thing is important. But windows and doors are one of the 4 or 5 things that you can pick from on there. And so because you need to say get 6 points, right? You need 5 or 6 points. And then I could choose to pick this kind of window or a window at this level and I get 2 points. But if I buy a lower U value window, right? Maybe triple glazing like you were talking about, I might get 2 points instead of 1 point, right? I'm getting some more points. So how much, what happens with triple glazing to the pricing?
I see. That's one of the things that
Does Pella even do it?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We have triple glazing.
Okay.
We can get to the R5 window, which is the the 0.20 U factors and stuff.
R5 equals 0.2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because it's the inverse.
Right.
From what we're seeing in the architects that we work with and the designers we work with, glass is the most expensive place to chase credits. So we really, first of all, we live in a very mild climate.
We do. I totally agree.
We have a beautifully mild climate.
We do.
In terms of delivering comfort and good energy performance, a nice dual glazed window with a low E coating, maybe jack that up a little bit in high sun exposure or high exposure.
I'm totally with you.
We're good. And so you add that triple glaze and it really pushes the price up. That
Feels like overkill.
We are the least efficient place. Our products, windows, are the least efficient place to chase those energy credits.
Okay, so the return. So what you're saying then
that cost of triple glaze versus the credits elsewhere.
Right. So what you're saying is do the best you can with like a double glazed window.
Get a good dual glazed window.
Get a good dual glazed window that's going to get as low as it can.
Yep.
And then chase those additional credits in a different HVAC
your
system.
Envelope,
or water heater or
Yep.
wall insulation, attic insulation, something like that is a better return.
Yep.
Okay? That's a great point. I appreciate that. Tempered glass is, everybody's seen this, right? When you break a window and it shatters into a million little pieces, right? They heat it up, right? What's that process? They heat it, they temper it.
Tempering it, yeah.
After the thing is made and make it brittle.
They heat it up, then they cool it.
So then if it breaks, it blows up into a jillion little pieces, and that's meant to be a safe thing so that you don't get stabbed with giant shards of glass, right? Is the idea behind that. Okay. Now, and so that's a safety glass thing. And there are places that you have to have tempered glass in a home. Right? And those are
near a door, near the floor.
Near a door.
Stairways have requirements.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all like a door glass for sure.
Door glass is always tempered. Windows next to a door are going to be tempered.
Windows near a door.
Yep.
Windows within certain distance of the floor.
18 inches of the floor.
The glass within 18 inches of the floor. Stairwells, that's interesting. I didn't know that one.
Landings, when you have a landing on a stairway.
If you fall down the, okay, I got you. Now, what about bathrooms? Because I believe that the code used to be, or I understood it to be, that it was like if you're in the shower or the tub and you can reach it, it had to be tempered. And then I thought that it changed to like any glass in the bathroom has to be tempered. What's the current status on bathrooms?
You know what? This is where, they call me the president of parties and picnics. I'm not in the technical side as much anymore, but it was a measurement from the drain.
Right, within 5 feet of the drain, right?
I think it was 60 inches, or 5 feet is what I want to say. 5 feet vertical, 5
feet in a circle.
But here's the thing. You get inspectors, and codes can be interpreted so many different ways. They write these codes to leave it up to interpretation. I would always say, if it's a small window, it's in the bathroom, just temper the thing. Like, I'd rather
it does
spend the extra $80 or whatever it's going to be.
It does increase the cost of the window,
little bit,
but not typically the end of the world kind of cost.
It's cheaper than having an inspector come out, decide that, his interpretation that window needed to be tempered. If you think it needs to be tempered,
maybe we should talk to those guys up in Canada you're talking about. We'll just get a sticker from them.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Just say that it's tempered. Egress windows.
Yep.
All right. Kind of talk about what that is and sort of why we have to have them. And then I have an interesting story for you on that if we have a minute. But so egress windows, this is bedroom related, right? This is a safety thing. This is a code issue, right? So how would you describe that to make sure that I'm right?
Egress is obviously the ability to egress our home, to exit our home, right? In the case of an emergency. So in bedrooms, there are requirements that are how, the window can't be so far off the floor, right? And it
so
has
you
to
can
be,
climb out.
Yep.
Right.
You can climb out, or a fireman, rescue personnel can get in.
Right.
It's 5.7 square feet with a minimum of 20 inches clear versus 24 inches clear in the other direction. So it has to meet all three of those criteria.
It's a second, if there's a fire in the hallway right outside your bedroom door, there is a way for you to get out other than having to go through said fire outside your bedroom door, or a fireman to come in.
Yep.
Okay, so you got to have one of those in every bedroom, maximum distance off the floor.
I want to say it's
44.
Oh man,
I would say it's 44.
I think it's 44 off the floor.
Right, is the maximum height off the floor, 44, so you could climb out.
Yeah.
And then there's a minimum width, minimum height, minimum square footage.
Yes.
Because you can't do like an 8-inch wide, 9-foot tall window and say, oh, well, it's got enough square footage of glass, but it's a mail slot, you can't get out of it. So minimum width, minimum height thing. So that's a way to get out. And you got to have them really quick. Had an interesting deal back in Chicago years and years ago before we came out here. I actually did a huge renovation second floor project on a house that was designed by one of Frank Lloyd Wright's closest sort of associates.
Okay.
And it was right down the street from his studio, literally on the same street, 8 blocks away. And so we were doing a second floor, and there was bedrooms on the corners, but there was one bedroom front and center in the middle that only had one set of windows. Right up there already, and it was a triple set of the double hungs.
Yep.
And so when we redesigned it that those windows would be egress, right? And they weren't the way they were designed. But the city and the historical society told us we had to make them be the same proportion and ratio that they were before. And we got a special dispensation to build that bedroom without a legal egress window. The very first and only time I've ever heard of that.
Yeah. I've seen.
I mean, you in window business, you may have seen, seen that more, but I was surprised. We just assumed that they were going to make us make that egress, and we were like, oh, okay, well, it's going to have to be egress. So that was interesting. So they let us get away with that. Lead times are a big thing for windows and doors in terms of manufacturing, and from our standpoint as a builder, we often need those very early in the process, that we need. We can wait for kitchen cabinets because we don't need those till lots and lots of stuff is done. But windows, I'm going to need those super early. So what's going on with lead times in the world of windows and doors?
Well, it's not COVID anymore. That was
fair.
Lead time was a really variable question. No, I mean, the people have to remember windows are made to order. These aren't things that are just stocked on a shelf. Right. So every window, even if you're buying a builder grade package, these things are being manufactured on demand. And so, your typical lead time is going to be anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks, 8 weeks if it's getting really custom or we have to get special glass, but somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I see some really super funky doors, some of these bifold doors and folding doors and things. Those can run out 10, 12, 14, 16 weeks kind of thing.
We can get them quicker than that now. But
no, you guys can, but just some of them. But it seems like window times and things like that have modulated a little bit, so not as bad. What would you say is the most important thing that you would want to, have people take away? The hottest trends, things to be aware of. What are you excited about in windows and doors? What's coming that you want to put in your house, that you want to get in your showroom to share with people?
Okay.
I remember the corner window, right? The 90-degree window. That was the thing. And then the glass you could turn off and on. That was kind of a cool thing. Like anything out there that you're super excited about?
It's all out there. I think, especially if there's a message, we're talking to homeowners, in this case.
Right.
We've done such a good job in this category of building and design. We've done such a good job of making it intimidating, of making it confusing, of creating such crowds of competition, and it gets harder to differentiate. There's something like 8 octillion combinations of window and door and material. And I've heard people multiply it out to decillions when you talk about the variations. And so, the thing I get excited about is, we're still bringing it back. I always tell people, and this might sound really bad, you can put 4 competitors on the table, and I can get into all the nuance about why I like a design feature of mine. I might even look at a competitor's window and see a small nuance where I go, if I had to really pick, I kind of like the way this window's handling that. Right. But anymore, and I think this is the bigger problem, is I watch windows get designed and positioned poorly, right? And that's what we call fenestration, the placement of windows and doors. Like, that's all we do. At Pella, I'm building teams. All I have done for 26 years, I design and place windows and doors in people's homes. And that's an art in itself. Architects do brilliant jobs. They're so good at proportion and design. But when it comes to nuance that we can do with windows and how we can even sometimes elevate that experience for the customer, working with somebody that truly specializes in windows and doors. And that's why I have, 2 6,000 plus square foot design centers. I've got all your trick products. I've got automated doors. I can put glass in that you flip a switch and it becomes obscure. But more importantly, I can sit down with your architect. I can sit down with your designer. I can sit down with our homeowners, and we can help you not only visualize, but really think about the space and how the window is going to affect your view. And it's funny because I see it more in remodels, where I get to go in and truly reproportion or reposition the windows in a way that are going to truly capture both how you experience it externally and internally. And the wow factor I get from that, that's honestly what's kept me in the business for this long, is someone comes to buy a window because they have, let's say they're building a home, obviously, but, especially in the replacement side, hey, I've got an energy problem. I've got old single pane aluminum windows. And the thing that was always so fun about this industry, and this is where I got really passionate as an installer, they bought it because they had an energy problem. Then the new window was so beautiful, and we may have changed it from having a bunch of grids or bars to doing a picture window. Right. And the look is so dramatically different. The frame upgrades the look of the room. They get 5 other benefits with it. Sound. Oh, sound's a big one.
Oh, yeah. I remember experiencing that personally. One of the first houses we bought back in Chicago 100 years ago was this old, 100-year-old original windows kind of thing, and we put a tilt pack replacement window in there, and the most obvious thing was the difference in the sound of how much the outside was muffled compared to before. It was in Chicago, so it was in the city. You hear stuff if you live out wherever. Maybe no big deal, but it was amazing to us, how we were like, oh my God, really? That's crazy.
We need to simplify that process and make it digestible, make it meaningful. That how do you define comfort? Comfort isn't in a number that's on a U value. Right. How are you going to have confidence in install? And the other thing I see is the fracture of how the window gets to the homeowner. If you were to say, where does Pella really dot the I's and cross the T's? We have great windows, but we have exceptional standards in how we get those windows to our homeowner, and then service them from there out.
It's a great window. I'm a big fan. Honestly, I grew up framing houses. Right, working with my grandpa when I was little, and it was his company. And I honestly, before I worked for somebody else, and even then that just happened to be that I actually thought that the only window that I had ever actually touched, and I had installed hundreds of them, was a Pella window. That was the only window I ever installed in a house was a Pella, until I'd been doing it 10 years. Didn't even know there was other kind of windows you could get.
Yep.
You know, I mean, they came, we put them in the hole, and that was it. And it was the old school wood with the brick mold, and we were hand driving casing nails in those. And whoo, boy, you get in trouble if you hit that with the hammer and make a mark. So, Pella, I love it. We could definitely do this again. I mean, there's so much that you know, install, and like, I love what you're talking about. I mean, I'm getting these ideas of sending you a elevation and some floor plans and saying, hey, here's what we came up with. What would you do to this?
Yep.
You know, how would you tweak this up? Thinking about a Pella window scaping, right? And coming up with this whole look that we could send you something and you tweak it.
Yep, that's what we do.
And feed it back to us. Okay. And that's free?
Absolutely.
All right. Very good. All right, everyone. Thank you. Keith Dashofy.
Yep.
Got it right. Owner, president, principal of Pella Windows, Pacific Northwest in Bothell and Tacoma. 2 6,000 square foot showrooms, display centers, studios to work with you. If you need the whole thing, not just doors and windows, but you need an addition or new, remodel, whatever, call us, and then we'll work with Keith, and we'll put Pella windows in your house, and everything will be great. So thank you for being here. Thank you, Keith. I want to have you back, talk about some more stuff, install, like waterproofing, you know, there's just so many things, in-window treatments. There's so much we got to talk about and learn, windows and doors. We got to do this again. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Let's Build with Armada podcast in the books. Check the link in the description below. Check us out. See us on the website. We'll see you next time.